Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Duke and I'm Duke of Italy, and welcome back to another review. And today we're just covering one album, and it is Sparks Fly by Miranda Cosgrove. Now, Sparks Fly is an electropop slash pop album from 2010, released by Columbia, Epic, and Nick, and it has 19 producers on it. Now, I don't know that much about how many producers you're supposed to have on an album, but I think it's less than that. Although there's so many producers, it doesn't seem like there's a massive effect on the sound, but whatever. So Miranda Cosgrove, USC alumni. She was in iCarly. Awesome show. Have you ever watched iCarly? Like, are you even? Did you even have a childhood? Like everything Miranda Cosgrove has put out in terms of her television appearances have been gold. She was in School of Rock, Drake and Josh, and then iCarly, and she was a different character in all three, and she killed it every single time. And you're missing out if you don't watch the shows. Yeah, when I think of Miranda Cosgrove, she's like the real life version of Chica. You know, this girl. You know, the Chica. I don't know what anime that's from. I'll have to consult my elder homie Tiberius on that one. But it's adorable. The dance the girl does. She's the love detective. I don't know. Miranda Cosgrove, love detective. You know what she's doing. But yeah, Miranda Cosgrove is adorable. And you don't need any more evidence than watch her amoeba video where she does What's in My Bag. It's truly hilarious. I'll put a link in the description for that one, but summary of it is she's like picking like well-known records, but none of them are like super like unnecessarily poppy. Maybe for the time, like 2010, it's dated, but it's such a fun watch. I really recommend. So after Miranda Cosgrove recorded "Leave It All to Me," she realized she really enjoyed making music, so she decided to make an album. So how is it? Let's find out. Also, before I get started, on the album cover, I don't know why this is. First off, on the album cover, I don't know why this is, but it looks very Taylor Swift-esque. But also, like, her hair is like super messy. I'm not sure what the effect is there. There's no like dirty elements, and it's a lot of electro pop going on this album. So it's not like much anything like organic coming through all that much. But whatever. All right, well, let's get it started. The first track is the single "Kissing You," and they showed this a lot on Nickelodeon. If you were watching during the commercials, they'd show the music video to promote the album and the whole career there. Go download on iTunes because people still had iTunes then. But yeah, it's a cheesy track. It's overproduced in a lot of it, but it's got some simple guitar chords, but it's cute. There's not that much really wrong with it. It's a little boring, I guess. Really simple, but it's not exactly like killing me. It's okay. Now after that track, I lost a lot of faith with the next song called "Bam." Now it starts off with an intro that sounds it's edgy, and it sounds kind of something like an attempt at like being Gaga, but it was more like kind of edgy Disney stuff, like Lemonade Mouth or something. Don't make me think about Lemonade Mouth. Yeah, it's really generic. The chorus is super dumb. It's not my thing. There are some okay parts of the song. The synth during the verse, it keeps chiming in, and it almost sounds like an alarm or something like that. It sounds a little out of place. Yeah, most of the synths sound a little cheap, but the bridge, it sounds pretty good, especially with the lyrics on the bridge. I thought it was a little creative there. And the song kind of ends abruptly. It doesn't overstay its welcome that much, despite the fact that it's not necessarily the best song. Keeping on with tracks with names that I really think would indicate a poor album, we have Disgusting. Now, when I think of Disgusting, I think of Incredibly Average, but it definitely has some good elements. It starts off with this 80s synth beat intro, and I don't mean like Blinding Lights Weekend, like any of that cheap imitation stuff. Not that album's bad, but it's every sort of iteration of like 80s style I've seen in the 2000s. It's just like, what if we gave it like a ton of synths and tried to sound like Take On Me? But in this case, it sounds not necessarily dated, but it sounds like you could pull it out. Like you could put this in Napoleon Dynamite soundtrack, and the intro would totally sound in place. Like it's almost like resemblance of like When in Rome or Alphaville, for example. Actually thought it resembled Nothing Compares to You. Just that was what I thought there. The song has a lot going for it, but then at the chorus, I think it fell apart a little bit just with the lyrics. The hook with the word disgusting just comes across kind of weird, even if the message is kind of interesting as far as Miranda Cosgrove goes. The next track is the best track so far. It's called Shakespeare. Now this is a cover of a song by Susan Cagle, who released one album that she recorded, I think, at a Subway. Well, the videos are in a Subway. And if you know the original is very, very good. And this version, it's not as good, but it's still pretty solid. Well, it's pretty generic, just kick, snare, cymbal, beat. You know the one. You'll hear it the whole song and it barely changes, but it goes and it's good. It's got some emotional dynamics there. The lyrics are really fun. Of course, it's a cover, but the lyrics are nice. And this song actually debuted in an episode of iCarly where there was like a marriage going on, and Carly was asked to sing for the wedding, and it was a really awkward couple. But the song was it's a fun song. It's probably my second favorite off the album. We got another average track coming through with Hey You. Now, as it started off, it felt like so simplified and generic. I thought it was going to be like a country song, like a modern country song, with how like basic it was. And they added in clap snares towards the verse, and my hopes were dashed a little bit, but they came back. It felt very Taylor Swift-esque, which you'll see a lot of points in this album, because I guess Miranda Cosgrove was just trying to sound as popular as possible and appeal to a wide audience, which I can respect, but it will come through as like a half-baked, just sort of average result. It sounds like Red era Taylor Swift, where she's just barely edging out of the country scene. I even thought her voice sounded like her at a couple points, maybe during the chorus, and I could have easily mistook that for Taylor Swift. The message is really good. It's about, I guess, self-esteem and self-image and depression. I think it references suicide once or twice. It's delivered a little awkwardly, but it's from a teen girl, and the intentions are good. So I have no reason to believe that there's like a lack of information or just blatant ignorance going on here. Like one song that I know of. The next track is called There Will Be Tears. Another super weird title, but I guess that's what we're working with here. It feels very Disney Star-esque. It's just kind of a weird delivery here. It comes across as generic can be. The synths are very dated, very like Nickelodeon. This song could have really been on on Victorious. I think it sounds like the one song that Tori was singing with the guy on stage who was cheating on her. It's super generic. It's not god awful. I wasn't like begging to skip, but it was just on the weaker side. This next track is called Oh Oh, and this is the one track on the album that uses a sample of just a person saying "oh" a couple times. This is the clunkiest, most awkward delivery of any track on the album. It doesn't make a lot of sense. It's again trying to be edgy, which is not Miranda Cosgrove's strong suit here. She's here for the ooh-woos and the oh-woos, and that's what she's strong with. Even if it is that, it might be like average, but like the edgy stuff is definitely her weakest here. Just like with Bam, it's not as strong as it could be. Yeah, there's not a whole lot going on for this track, except it is catchy, and there is a part in the pre-chorus where she's kind of flipping her voice. It kind of reminds me of Imogen Heap, if that's how you pronounce her name. The What You Say girl, hide and seek. But it resembles that a little bit, and that was the highlight of the track there. I would not recommend that track, but for what it was palatable at points. So this next track is called Daydream, and I know you've never heard of it, my viewers, but this is the best track on the album by a pretty decent margin. The backing instrumentals really had some promise going in here, and while the first verse I should say, is just a little clunky, the rest of the song I think it's a hit. The chorus sounds kind of Paramore-ish. It's kind of good for the time, especially. I thought it sounded really good, but it ended a little too soon. But it's way better than the alternative at this point. Around the second verse, I was really getting into the track, and the lyrics were much better. The bridge was a little bit spacey, and at this point, I was super into the track. For a second, I was like, "Is this Cocteau Twins? Is this dream pop?" It was kind of bizarre how good it was sounding, and it's a little generic with how the song goes. It's like if you think of like the best generic song, like I guess Since You've Been Gone, rather, by Kelly Clarkson. It resembles that a little bit, but Miranda Cosgrove really shows off her range in this song. I mean, I wasn't even asking for it before, but it's coming across really strong. And I can genuinely say, I've never said this in a review, but listen to this track. If you have the time, listen to Daydream. I highly recommend. It's easily the best track off this album. It's easily the best track I've reviewed on this channel so far. Now the next track is called Brand New You. I would say this it's a clear drop off from the previous track here. So there's these guitar chords that sort of start off the song, but then they get layered with these kind of ugly electropop synths, and it just doesn't work quite right. The biggest cardinal sin of this track, the message is very muddy and not quite appealing. It's a little awkward. It's basically saying that Miranda Cosgrove found a replacement for her ex-boyfriend. I don't know if it's a real boyfriend. I don't think it is. But she basically found a replacement who was exactly the same, except better in like one way, where like he cared or something like that. While I can respect the female empowerment, like I Will Survive kind of song, it's an appealing little subgenre of music here. It does come across as a little weird, where it's brand new you and not a better guy. It's very clearly making a comparison here, and there are a lot of similarities to the antagonist here. So it's just delivered really weird. But I've heard worse, I guess I could say. The next song is called What Are You Waiting For? It's another Taylor Swift-esque track, and the message is a little unclear here. I'm not sure if it's about losing a friend or a breakup, but it's something along those lines. Of course, it's Miranda Cosgrove's lyrics. You wouldn't think you'd have to dive in deep, and I kind of zoned out in terms of the lyrics at this point, but it was pretty average as far as I could tell. Yeah, I would say this is the most boring track on the album. I would cut this track over any other, even though it's not the worst. It's very clearly like a 5 out of 10, just average track. The next track is called Adored. It's got a lot of interesting elements, but they just feel really half-baked. The instrumentals are just kind of weak, and the song, just in general, just feels kind of placeless. It's another track that I would have cut. And you can notice on the B-sides, I can't believe I'm saying Miranda Cosgrove B-sides here, there's a common trend where most of them feel out of place, like she didn't have a track necessarily to replace them. And this is another track where the message is a little weird. It's basically saying it comes across as like super clingy. Of course, it's Miranda Cosgrove. She can be clingy. She's adorable, but it does come across a little weird. It's basically saying, "Don't say you like me. Say you adore me." Okay, I need my space here, Miranda. It sounds a lot like it's trying to have like a second track on an album effect. It kind of reminds me of Parallel Universe by Red Hot Chili Peppers in that respect. And only that respect, where it's just the feeling is kind of still retaining some of the hype from the original, from an opening track, but it's not quite reaching it the whole time. The next track is called Beautiful Mess. It's actually the closing track on the album, so we're closing off on Miranda Cosgrove. It sounds very early 2000s here, which take it for what you will. It's a little dated, I guess. But yeah, it does sound generic. There is kind of an interesting message here. But while this is definitely not the best track on the album, I would say it's one of maybe 2 or 3 tracks here that actually I'd say builds a bit of an atmosphere. And in the context of the album, I find it a very strong closer, where it builds the atmosphere. It leaves you on a bit of a sad, somber note, but it comes across as pretty okay. Then again, it's not fantastic, but in the context, it's pretty decent. So to summarize this album, it's got a lot of generic elements and a lot of half-baked parts, some weaker instrumentals, but in contrast with other albums, there are a lot of elements here that are actually pretty great. Like, few of the tracks here are really strong, some emotional depth even, but then again, it's just not enough. I think there's way too many half-baked parts. While this is a very cute album, it gets an ooh-woo from me. It's adorable. And Miranda Cosgrove definitely shows some pretty fantastic moments with her voice here. I think it could have been utilized more in a future release, although there was none. So I'm going to give this album my highest rating so far with a Sneed. It is almost there, a little under average, but there are definitely some stronger elements, some deeper cuts that you could pull out and have a good time with. So that's Miranda Cosgrove. Gone too soon, her discography. I kind of wish I could see where it went, but it was was fun while it lasted. I didn't hate listening to this album. Anyway, so that's the review. I hope you guys have a good day. Please like and subscribe, and have a good one. I'll see you guys later.